Hey, people. I lost some subs on that last movie, so I thought I'd double down on it and read it in the Greek. I told you I didn't read that. I didn't pre-read that before I read it to you in that last movie, and that's the truth. I just read the first line. I didn't read that second line. I didn't know where it was going. But I guess people didn't like the idea of Islam cutting nuts off. But it explains it a lot better over here in the Greek. It's the remedy in the wilderness. The remedy, that's the remedy today. When your government goes to hell, all you can do is move out in the wilderness. And so, just like in the Hebrew, the beginning of this is really layered, real deep. It says a lot more than what's here. But in the lalasi, see is the one doing. See to this gets done. And the lala is the one that has the word. And the lalasi and the word to see a carry as force of motion. So this isn't motion. This is the moves have, where the E following the N becomes a V. The moves have in. And it's also, they hide the 7 in there, the number of Venus. And it's also, the mouse is in there. The mouse is the beginning. And so it can read many different ways. It could be the moves in or the moves having. And the moves having the THE and the remedy. And the remedy sign, SIN. And the AE becoming the ES. And the remedy signs in the skin it, HT, it of. In the skin it of, from art where you. And so mart, that's the Hebrew word for, and put them in the heavens for a sign. It's in art, the mart. Coming from the lights in the firmament, from art. The remedy signs in the skin it of, from art where you in a moot of. And so the IA becomes the U. That's the first day. And Mu, that was the symbol of the owl. And it's also the symbol of the ancient people from the land of Mu, the land before. And so when the moot of a menace is the first day of the month. You don't have a moon, and it's the moot of a menace. It's a problem because you don't have a light at night. So this doesn't mean day 1 of the month. It means no moon, beginning of the month. And so men, same place where your word manners come from, meaning restrained, and it'll show that down lower. And so the moot of menace to, and then the U reading here, would, and hooter of it whose. The hooter of it whose is the owl, the moo. In moot of menace to, would hooter of it whose, tutor of, the teacher of the moon. It's held haunting, hanging over your shoulder, haunting. And it's held haunting ought to vekage, to get the hell out. The vekage say gift of, a legend. And lab it, the arch on, when it gets to the top, the arch on, and to lab it, to take its dimensions, to shoot it with your astrolab, and where your word laboratory come from, to take the measurements, lab, and the lab it arch on a face, and then this double S becomes a SI, and the face C when onage, the AG becomes an AN, and the onage is, to bless them with your presence at the synagogue, is to see when onage is. Vion, how on, who on his rule, accaditas, according to the catalog, cad it as, to catalog it as, according to its column, under the heading, according to. And cadit as the double S turns into a Y, J, or I. The jug. The jug is your addiction, is your yoke. That's where yoke come from. The same place where your word yogi comes from. The double G becoming an I. The IA becomes a U. This is EUS, whose, and the yoke, and ye, 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 and so the N before the E becomes a bet, the B. So it's just like a big B sitting in there. And so the yoke ye in whose, their kin. The yoke ye in whose oughtn't. The ought and oughtn't. These are the 10 Commandments. These are things you ought and do. But sometimes, they're things that you ought of, depending on the following letter. And the eco, OI becoming E, the eco, the house. And the house was Patreon. The IO at the end here, this IO becomes an E in this fashion. And the other O with the I on the other side becomes E. And that's so you can change the direction and change the vowel in just one direction. So use a different O. And so this is where they try to get the word the father from, the fat. But this is, your Patreon, the one that keeps your business alive. The one that's in the store, the Patreon and oughtn't, the shouldn't, a cata. This is a caddy, double A but turn into it. The first one comes an I. And oughtn't a caddy to cater, to carry your clubs. And oughtn't caddy a rhythm on. And shouldn't carry a rhythm on. And this is where your word anonymous comes from. And it's not a name. And shouldn't carry a rhythm on. Animation. An animation. The picture, draw it out. And don't carry a rhythm on. The animation. And so they're getting a name out of this noma here. But it's not a name. A noma is a section of land that has a name. The noma is not the name. The noma is the place. And caddy a rhythm on animation oughtn't and shouldn't. And shouldn't panners in. And this is where your word manners come from. The R's in is not the male. The R's in is what it's in. The body that carries it. And so if you have manners, you have restraint are in. The restraints are in. You have good manners. And people that don't have manners, they're panners. Everybody else that doesn't have restraint, they're a bunch of panners in. That's panners. It means pan, means no restraint. Everything goes. It's said that Pan's mother screwed 105 of her husband's friends so they don't know who his daddy was. All of them. And oughtn't panners in cata, according to. And this is a cattle. The KE becoming an LE, the cattle calling. The cattle calling. And so this head count, this is a fallen. In the military, time for head count, fall in. But this is LE, LE. This is the French fallen. This is the women you've taken, their head count of the fallen. And the Greek, they raped the Sabines. They went and got all the French women because they didn't have any women to keep the Greeks alive over there. And the fallen oughtn't with what the you took and shouldn't. And I believe they got this mixed up here. And they changed some words up in the Septuagint. Apo is away. But the E following the O becomes a V, a vav, and it's a pav, and it's a poor, a poverty, poor, and a poor ecos, a poorhouse. So they weren't getting all the men. They were going to the poor house, and S-C-S-A-E is S-E-S, the poorhouse cestus. The children of the poor people is what this says. Apavicos cestus. And If on a phase, this is pause, like metapause, it's the phase of meta. And if on a pause, or happen a pause, to get it up and moving, if on a pause. So they twisted up this punctuation, but this should have read over here, and this starts again. The fallen oughtn't a pav house, the poor house cestus. And upon a pause, to and up all going forth. And on a pause of, and the E after the O reading is a vav, and the spore, CPORE, spore of women, WOMEN, and spore women as in the Dunham they, the Dun am they, the ones you forced yourself on. The Dunham they is rule. A P, upon, and the K coming for the E is the L, and upon's lips as the, and ought of C, the double S, reading SI, and ought of C when the to name ya what on, the powers, the dynamo, the powers, to tu, and name. And this is tu right here. This is a to, like an address where you're sending something to. It could be right with the th to. And to name ya what on. And this is just stretching out a swear on. The double A, the first one's reading as an I. This is a vav, a W, or a U, an SWUIAR, to swear on. And don't tell the name, the powers. And what it does in this Septuagint, it adds these words before this here. They'll say this is all pause, all, and arson is men, but it's the passers in is what it's putting on there. And the passers in, a poorhouse, a pav ecos cestus. And so Pan is the only god that ever died. Arcadia was the principal seat of his worship. The mountain people, culturally separated from other Greeks. The lawless sea carry as force of moves have in the remedy, the wilderness. And so Pan's not worshipped in temples, Pan is the god of when you just happen to find a girl out in the woods and you have no restraint. And so all the gods live in your head. Psychology and religion all came from the same science. They're trying to hide some of it, so it's difficult to understand. But all the gods are living in your head. And the way they killed Pan, was the fear of Pan. The government would tell you, come out of the woods and back to the cities where you're safe. Pan runs rampant out there. And Pan learned masturbation from his father Hermes and teaching the habit to the shepherds. But Pan is also the bread all around Europe. Pan is the bread, and the bread is the money. That's what that means. When Pan come around, panic set in. You see that the same word in the Hebrew for and on his face, or your face, the panic. And so Pan, that's the only god, Greek god, that dies. And that's what it was about in the Hebrew, the castration. Cut his damn nuts off and they cured that. The old bums persum, the call rocks, crillage of Geltum, cut his nuts off. And that number was wrong. That's 108. And Penelope slept with all. Pan, she slept with Pan, 108 suitors. And so his mama was a fiend. And she was a phenol of the slept with all. And so when you read this in the old language, it would have said, the phenol of slept with Pan. So everything loses everything in translation. There's none of this old writings can be translated in any language because first thing, you lose all the poetry. You don't understand what it's all about. I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.